Good morning, Karn Hongtong, and I can see that you will already be introducing some new cultural practices into the Christie family. This is Big Chief Talking Bull, Peter Christie, Benny's dad, coming to you from inclement day in Johannesburg. There's a slight drizzle, it's a little bit nippy, and autumn is definitely going to visit us sincerely pretty quickly. Now, when Benny came back from Cape Town, and she shared with me over a cup of coffee all the many things that had happened to her in Cape Town, she saved the best till last. And the best at the last was her news that she had fallen in love with a man from Thailand, a man all the way from Bangkok, a man by the name of Karn Hongtong. Now, that really came as wonderful news. I expected when I partially was influential in Benny attending the storytelling workshop in Cape Town with Sue, that it would have a transformative effect on her. I've seen these transformations in my course as a storyteller, and yet I didn't quite anticipate the extent of the transformation which had come over Benny. And her news with the ring on her finger that you had also fallen in love with her, which is of course also important, that two people who intend to spend the rest of their lives together both love one another equally, came as just exceptional news. And when you shared something of yourself in your little video on the WhatsApp group, and then have been responding to various people's contributions, every time you do so, I like you more and more, Karn. And I want to just wish you the warmest welcome into our family. It's not a tiny family, and neither is it gigantic. This family consists of myself, and fortunate to have a mother who's still very much alive. That's Pat, and she had two children, myself and Marianne, my sister, who you've also met over the WhatsApp group. And my mom has a creative spirit, which fortunately we inherited, and I got dressed up especially for this occasion. Ordinarily you might find me in a holy t-shirt and an old pair of pajama pants, but knowing that it was you that I would be speaking to via this video, I got up especially dressed as a storyteller. And when I started my storytelling career, my mom made a waistcoat for me, and that was 30 years ago, 1990, and it's now 2020, and I have 30 waistcoats in my wardrobe, one for every year, and that's part of my persona, my sort of personal branding as a storyteller. Now, I married earlier on in my life, and we had three wonderful children. Amy, who you've met via the WhatsApp group, Felix, who you've met by the WhatsApp group, who's in your neck of the woods, not too far away from where you are in Vietnam at the moment, and of course Benny. And that effectively is the one side of the family, and it's fairly small, but it extends. And my mom has a sister, Jennifer, and she's married to Rob, and they have three beautiful children, Sally, Bruce and Grant. And so, and with their children as well, we extend a little bit further in our reach. And then on the other side, as you would have known from Benny, my marriage to her mother did not last. It lasted for nearly 25 years, but came apart. And I was very fortunate that to fall in love with, and for her reciprocally to fall in love with me, Joanne Kaplan. Jo, unfortunately, is fairly desperately ill in hospital at the moment, but I know she's with us in spirit, and we're hoping for a good recovery, and as soon as she does recover, I'm sure she'll post something of this nature to you as well, Karn. She also comes from a fairly small family. She has her mom, Dolores. Her dad passed away many years ago, as mine did. And Dolores is an important part of the family as well. And Joanne has a sister, Andy. Andy has two children, that's Gabby and Danny. Gabby has children as well. And so, yeah, that's the sort of broad reach of the family, I guess, in terms of numbers, probably about 30 people. So when you plan that wedding at Erin Hall in Rondebosch, yeah, those are the sort of people that you'd get to know a little bit better. I know that you're also planning a wedding in Bangkok, and we will do anything that we can, all things in our favour, to also be there and to meet your family and to get to know you a little bit better in your home country and your hometown. Karn, we're storytellers, both you and I know that you expressed some concerns about this upcoming betrothal, which gladdens our heart like very little else gladdens our hearts. And as storytellers, I felt it was important just to share with you a little story by way of introduction, and also perhaps this story might help to alleviate some of your concerns around getting married to Benny. So it's a story that comes out of a book called The Gift of Story, which was written by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Clarissa Pinkola Estes is a very interesting character, still very much alive. She published a book called Women Who Run with the Wolves, probably about 30 years ago now. It's a wonderful treasure trove of stories, if you're interested in those. And she published another book, though, after Women Who Run with the Wolves, called The Gift of Story. And let me just tell you this little short story. It's not long, but I think it's very instructive for people who are in love and want to stay in love. And it's a book called When Is Enough Enough? And what Clarissa Pinkola Estes does is she invokes this idea of babushka dolls, whereby a smaller doll is enclosed within a bigger doll, and so forth, and you open the bigger doll, the smaller doll, and so on, you get to the core. And she tells a number of stories around which wrap around the core story in The Gift of Story, and this is how it goes. It's a story from Poland, and once upon a time there was a very abjectly poor young Polish couple who had nothing really of material value to share and enjoy amongst one another, but they did have their deep and abiding love. And it comes that time in Polish society where it was traditional for people who loved one another to exchange gifts as a sign of their love for each other. And the husband, thinking about his beautiful young wife, thinks about her hair. She's got the most magnificent flaxen, waxen hair that flows all the way over her shoulders and down her back, but she doesn't even have a brush or a comb for her hair. And thinking to himself of the item of only value which he has is a pocket watch that he inherited from his dad, that he keeps in his pocket. He doesn't have a chain, unfortunately. He never had a chain. He just has the pocket watch. And he thinks to himself, well, what I could do is I could go into the village and I could pawn this pocket watch, and whatever I realize from that transaction I could use, and I will then buy a brush or a comb for my wife so that she can comb her beautiful hair. Independently of her husband, the young Polish woman is thinking to herself, and knows of her husband's pocket watch, and that one day inevitably he's likely to lose it without a chain. And thinking to herself what she has of some value, the only thing that comes to mind is her beautiful hair. And so she resolves to go into the village and go to the local wig maker and have all of her hair cut off. And with the proceeds of that transaction, she'll buy a chain for her husband's pocket watch. And so comes the day that they wake up and exchange gifts together, and she has a brush but no hair, and he has a chain but no watch. But they still have the most important thing that they always had together, and that was their deep and abiding love for one another. So I'll share this little story with you, hoping that you never confuse what's important. I get the sense that you won't, and I don't think Binny will either. And the important thing with these kinds of relationships, such as the one that you're embarking on, is that you always keep love right at the core and not worry too much about making other things your God. material possessions and so forth all devalue over time. That's not to say that in any way I don't wish you an abundant life together and that you have all the blessings materially that might come your way. But as long as you love one another and continue to love one another in the same way that you always have right until the end, that's when enough is enough. So Karn, I won't go through my whole life story because I don't think I've got enough memory space on my camera to give that to you. But just to say that we welcome you in a warm embrace into our family. We can't wait to meet you face to face, of course, and hopefully that will occur sooner rather than later. It's a difficult time that we're all going through with this coronavirus. But we will do everything that we possibly can to support the two of you in your great love affair, and we're hoping that that begins with a couple of weddings. We all certainly do love weddings in this family, and when it's one of us who's getting married, well, that's the best news ever. I'm hoping, Karn, that things are going well for you in Bangkok, as they are in Johannesburg. It's a very quiet time for us, pretty much stuck at home under a shutdown, which I assume that you are too. It's quite difficult for me at the moment because Joanne being hospitalized, I can't visit her under these conditions. And so I'm here with my dog. My dog's name is Fish. I know that that's a fairly strange name for a dog, and it certainly introduces certain perplexities on the beach. If Fish is with us and not obeying commands, and I call out, "Fish, fish, fish," people are, they look at me somewhat askance until they see that, of course, a dog responds. So the Fish is with me, and she's a little bit thrown by Joanne's absence, and of course, if we can't walk, we take regular walks together. And I also have two cats. You'll be pleased to hear. I know that your cat is very important in your life, and we have two cats. The one is Chips, that goes with Fish, of course, and he's a male. I'll send you some pictures of him. And then we've got Spice. We had Sugar, but unfortunately she met a tragic accident with a motor vehicle. But Spice is still with us, and so that's the four of us, myself, Fish, Chips and Spice, trying to live out this coronavirus shutdown as best as we can. I don't think that I have anything more to say at this stage, Karn, other than just to reinforce the great joy that we have that you and Benny are an item, so to speak. And we know that it must be very difficult for you to cross these cultural barriers and so on, but just to try and put your mind at ease that this is really, really wonderful news, and we're very happy for both of you. Benny's transformation has been absolutely stunning, and we know that it's got a tremendous amount to do with the love affair that she has with you now. So I'll leave that with you, and I'll try and do some regular postings of these kind of videos. Excuse the fact that it might be somewhat amateurish, and I'm hoping that the volume's okay and that I've set it up correctly so I haven't chopped off half my head and when you're looking at my shoes at the moment. But I'll check it out, and all being well, send it onto the group ASAP, and sending you warm wishes from Johannesburg in the hope that we'll connect again soon. Cheerio, Karn, and look after yourself there, all those 6,000 or so kilometers away. Cheers from the Big Chief.